today I'm going to talk about sage, Palo Santo, white sage, spray sage, all things sage that have to do with clearing and moving energy. So before I get started, please go ahead and hit the like button. Helps me out a lot, and I know I ask every time, but it really does. I'm working hard to grow the community. I love each and every one of you, and I'm happy that we have this place where we can come together and ask these questions and share ideas. So, needless to say, let's go to the actual question here. It says, hi, Lynn, does sage really cleanse the air in your home? I know people who used it, and it was a tradition that came from Native Americans. I recently read that it actually does purify the air, and it isn't just spiritual. Is that true? If sage is a good thing, is there a certain kind to get, and how do you do it? For example, I usually buy something called white sage, and they sell sage kits with abalone shell and a feather. It seems like a pleasant ritual, and I've seen those kits too, and there's nothing wrong with it. Just be careful because it can get hot when you burn it. People will use shells. I like to use a terracotta pot that I have that has a little handle. So there really is no right or wrong way to burn it. It's more about safety, comfort. You can use a wand. That's fine too, where it's wrapped. All those kind of things are fine. Just be careful of the heat if you use a shell. I will say that. Also, this person wanted to know, does the spray work? The sage spray, or is it just a gimmick? Finally, they were wondering about the properties of Palo Santo wood and if it's like sage or if it's different. I've been told it's more for bringing good intentions rather than cleansing. I like it a little better than sage since it's sort of a sweet smell. And if you've seen it, it looks like a piece of wood that's splintered, and it does have a very, I would call it sweet. It reminds me of like a lemongrass undertone. Everybody may interpret it a little different, but it does have that sweetness to it. So, and thinking about this, I mean, I love these questions because this is right at my wheelhouse. I do clearing and cleansing of people, their personal space. Here locally, I'll go to people's houses, that kind of thing. So I'm very familiar with this and the cleansing and clearing practice, at least how it pertains to what I do. It is possible to cleanse and clear your space with intent only. You can go through, and mentally, that's really what's at work. You are mentally forcing energy to move and have it go somewhere else. It's always important. You can't create or destroy it, but the goal is to shift it. So you're wanting to get this energy somewhere else. Using tools such as sage, Palo Santo, it strengthens the intent. It can help, but it's more about strengthening the whole ritual of what you're doing, and enhances your intent through action instead of just only using your mind. You're putting forth a physical action as well. I like to work with white sage, and I use cedar with it because it helps to balance the masculine and the feminine energy. You just get a good harmony there. It's not required, but it's nice for a balance, and everything works in balance. So for me, when I'm doing it, I put a little cedar in with my white sage. I also see that aside from clearing a space or moving a negative energy, that sage does help to purify the air. I do think that that is correct. Just remember that a little can go a long way. So if you are super smoking up a spot, it might feel counterproductive. You just need a little bit to really be effective. You don't need to have your whole room encapsulated and filled with smoke for it to be working. With regard to the purification process, or really any of the process, that's completely unnecessary. So I will put that out there as well. And looking in Palo Santo and the properties of that versus sage, they do work really similar in that they strengthen what you're doing. And Palo Santo can be an alternative to sage, or for those that are sensitive. And I've actually met some people that cannot be around sage or sage burning. It irritates them. It irritates their lungs. It irritates their breathing. Regardless if it's a little bit, a lot, it doesn't really matter. So Palo Santo can be a good alternative to that. And even though both work, I would agree that sage feels to move energy easier than Palo Santo. Something with the smoke of the sage, it's like it lifts through the air differently, or it fills a space and it gets into the little tight spaces and the little nooks and crannies. If you use these items while meditating or manifesting, they seem to be pretty equal. But if you're going to move energy and you can use the white sage, ideally with cedar, that looks to be the most effective. Spray sage, and looking at that, I am familiar with that as well. It feels to be so much less effective. It helps to focus intent because it, again, is through the physical action or the ritual. but I don't see it creating the harmony or having the same energetic benefits that burning a little bit of sage or sage and cedar can have. And that's really all I have for this reading. But if anybody has questions on the process, if anybody would like their space cleared and like to set up an appointment or anything like that, by all means, reach out to me on my blog or drop a comment below. Again, I am Lynn with Psychic Focus at psychicfocus.blogspot.com. Thank you. Bye.